Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Myopia Movies and the beginning of our 8th season. That's right, 7 short years ago we started Myopia Movies as Myopia Defend Your Childhood with, I believe, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. No, Excellent Adventure I think was first. No, that's not true. Our first 3 episodes were Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, then Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and then Space Jam. By the way, if you want to hear what we sounded like back then, Space Jam is out from behind the vault door. Otherwise, everything else for our first 100 episodes is still behind the vault door, and you have to be a patron to hear it. In the meantime, we're starting off Season 8 with a Jim Cameron special on The Abyss. Possibly because I just went to Disney and, you know, kind of, sort of, enjoyed Avatar Land. I'm back into Jim Cameron, mode, but who knows if that movie will ever actually come out, let alone the next 6. Rewatching Terminator, he expected the world to end around 2028, so maybe he's just hoping time runs out first. In the meantime, thank you for writing a review. It's the beginning of Season 8. If you haven't reviewed us, please do. It really helps get attention. And then finally, if you want to hear more of what we do, consider joining the Patreon. Patreon.com/myopia. And thanks. Welcome to Myopia Movies. This week we're talking about the Jim Cameron classic, The Abyss, the movie which forced him, because it failed, to do Terminator 2. I'm Nick Hoffman, host of Myopia and Riffer on Cineprom. And up here we have
Jeremy.
Candace.
Matthew W. Quinn, who's going to plug another author this time, Christine Morgan, because I live tweeted this movie and she jumped in and commented a bunch of times, so definitely check her work out. She's awesome.
So that's right. Follow Matt and get free plugs. It works. We put this on the roster a million years ago. It's one of those ones we didn't know if we'd ever get to or not, and then I published this list and Candace jumped at me.
Immediately.
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
So, why?
So, I mean,
Tell me why you like now.
This movie came out in 1989. That would have made me 7 years old. I remember seeing this film. It was amazing then. It's amazing now. It surprisingly holds up well. And everything about this film is super cool. And I was today years old when I learned several facts about it that I learned earlier today in preparation for this filming and recording. So we're going to have a good time.
Great. Thank you. So if you guys haven't seen this one, it is Ed Harris, as the head. I mean, it's Armageddon, but underwater, starring Ed Harris. I don't know what to tell you. Anyone going to give the plot for this?
Sure.
Please.
So, first I must note, I watched the extended version because the only thing better than a James Cameron movie is an extended James Cameron movie.
So it's what, 3 hours and change?
Yeah, it's close to 3 hours. And I will say, it flows.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So if I'm describing something and I see lots of weird looks on people's faces, then obviously that was not in the theatrical version.
The only thing about the extended version that's different is about the last 28 minutes. So you're fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So we open up on a U.S. submarine that's just doing whatever. And they
hunting for the Red October.
Yeah. And they notice something weird on their sonar. They think it's a Russian ship because this is the 80s. And everything bad that happens is because of the Russians. Mm-hmm. And this weird thing causes their equipment to malfunction. The submarine dies, basically sinks to the bottom or the lowest point of where they are, and everyone dies. And Ed Harris is the chief of a rig crew that is tasked by the Navy to help look at the wreckage of the submarine. And really, it's not so much as a rescue option so much as we find out, there's a shitload of nuclear warheads on the sub, so we need you to get them before the Russians do. And that's basically the jumping off point, and because this is a James Cameron movie, weird stuff happens later on.
That's right.
And yeah.
We fly through ET for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah, right. So I guess we can start at the very beginning. There's a lot of Jim Cameron stuff that, of course, makes him Jim Cameron, which is why I don't like Avatar a lot. But there's a lot of good practical effects here, right? Like, they build a lot of sets. There's a lot of miniature work, which is fantastic. And it all starts with the submarine set, which I'm sure is the same submarine set from Red October and everything else. But he knows how to use the space very well.
It's not the same space.
Oh, really?
It was made exclusively for this film, and it was placed underwater in one of 2 tanks that was part of a emptied out nuclear silo in South Carolina. It was the largest frame ever to be used as an underwater component to a film.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Yes.
this movie, they went crazy. Like, all the cast were certified scuba divers.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. I mean, the backstory of this film made me love this movie even more than I already did. And by the end of learning all this, I found out that the cast used to call it The Abuse.
Yeah, they hated Jim Cameron.
They hated this, and it was hardcore. And that's because when James Cameron came to the studios and pitched The Abyss, they thought that he was going to do it with CGI. Or at least what CGI they had at the time. And then he said, no, I'm going to do it with all practicals. And that's when they were originally going to film in the ocean. They were like, oh no, we realized with Jaws, Steven Spielberg said, no, never film in the ocean, yada, yada, yada. So then they were going to do it like in this controlled area. It didn't work. So then they found an emptied nuclear silo in South Carolina that they painted black so that way it would look like nothingness. And they filled it with a kajillion billion gallons of water, and they covered it with a black tarp, and they started filming there for 7 months. And they built entire sets that they then submerged into the water. And
Holy cow.
this is the most extreme, ridiculous, horrible movie experience that any of these actors have ever dealt with, to the point where they wouldn't even talk about it after the film. And so, so yes, it does start off with us going to see the wreckage of the SS Montana, which is the submarine that had the nukes on it, and they're going to find out about it. And the Ed Harris, who works on the oil rig that happens to be nearby, wants nothing to do with this, but he is overruled by his superiors. And
I think specifically also the military is
correct.
there,
So that
owned by the balls.
The Navy SEALs are the ones who reached out to his superiors and they said, no, we are coming there. You do need to accommodate us because we have to go down and do this rescue mission, which is really just them rescuing a nuclear warhead. So
That's
Now,
right.
I suspect they just wanted one to get to blow the rest of the submarine up. Because apparently this is right off the coast of Cuba.
yeah, what is
Yeah.
it? The
The
Cayman
Cayman
Trent?
Yeah.
Trough? Yeah. Trench, whatever.
Because I'm going to just gush all over this movie. The science they get a lot right. The Cold War stuff, I think it's more the extended version than the theatrical version, is good. I mean, I just love this movie, but
Same.
we can, I guess, plug what I love in organically as we go along, rather than let me rant for 10 minutes about how great this movie is.
Well, I was just going to point out what's weird to me is this is the movie he does right after Aliens. This feels a lot like an Alien movie, right?
Oh, yeah.
They have the full cast. They're all space truck miners. They're working around. Ed Harris is the beautiful Sigourney Weaver. But yeah, I don't know. I like this movie. It also, of course, foreshadows the entire rest of his career, from Aliens with the Avatar movie, from Titanic with the water stuff. I don't know.
To the technology that they created to do the effects of the aliens on here is what they used for T2.
Which,
the cop.
Yeah, which is the movie he did
Yeah.
after this. Which,
Well, I mean, you went
it's
to
a
all the
better movie.
trouble of making this
Oh, yeah.
movie. You might as well
Yeah.
pillage it for as much learning as you
Exactly.
can.
well, because it bombed. He
It
wanted
did.
he wanted this to be his Avatar, where there's like movie after movie after movie. It was a financial flop, and so he then made Terminator 2, which was a huge movie, and then made even more money, and then became a video game and an experience at Universal Studios. But this is what he wanted to do, and if you watch watch Avatar with that in mind, you're like, oh yeah, this is it. I mean, it also looks a lot like E.T., which came out not too long before that.
Yeah, I did a live Twitter blast about this while watching it, and there's a scene that's like the creation of Adam crossed with E.T. We'll get to that.
Yeah, what's your Twitter, Matt?
At Matthew W. Quinn.
You can tell, of course, what we're going to do, but just follow him now and again, because he really does live tweet these movies, even to the point where he says things like, I'm pausing it to go to the bathroom, which is really funny to me. But it's very funny. It's very enjoyable to follow him do that. Ed Harris is getting chewed out by his superiors. They're on top of a thing. Someone else who clearly watched this movie is Michael Crichton, because nothing sets a Michael Crichton movie off like a hurricane for no reason.
That's right.
Or a Twister. But
speaking of Twister, they have the Twister effect here, because one of the people who comes to work with them is his, I don't think they're divorced yet, but they're clearly going that way, wife.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, we haven't seen you in a while. It's so great to have you here. And Ed Harris about to have a stroke.
Yes.
And she
Dr. Lindsay Brigman.
And she designed the rig, and it seems like she's more of an owner of the company than he is. He's just kind of the roughneck, manual labor guy. So she says, how dare you turn over my rig to the military, as though he had any say in the matter. And the thing is, they have to try to go down to recover these people, which is really the nukes. They bring down SEALs Team Douchebag, starring, is it like Michael Biehn is among them, I think?
Yeah,
Yes,
Michael
Kyle Reese.
Kyle Reese.
Yeah, he's really good in this, because they have this whole talk at the beginning of the movie about, well, if you go down deep enough underwater, the pressure starts affecting your mind.
Yeah.
And over the course of the movie, he basically becomes Captain Queeg from the Kane Mutiny.
Right.
That was actually, I think he's excellent in the movie. It's the only problem I have is that his evolution into a psycho wasn't very gradual. Like, he's an asshole from the word go. And like, by the second scene, his hand is shaking, and he's like, and I didn't remember it being that quick the first time I saw it.
Well, and it's also that they kind of set it up in like a very passe way. Like, they're like, do any of your men susceptible to space madness? And you're like, what, space madness? He goes, nah, they're all fine. And he goes, so you know that someone is going to get it.
Yeah.
And it takes all of 30 seconds before he turns into Colonel Kurtz or whatever.
Yeah, this script is very well put together. Technically, like, everything is foreshadowed. Like, my Twitter feed is like, Chekhov blank, Chekhov blank.
I mean,
there's no surprises. Well, there are surprises, but it's not like ass pulling.
I was going to say that actually kind of frustrated me a little bit. The nice thing about Alien is that it builds very slowly, and there's a surprise here. We're introduced to the fact that there's extraterrestrials pretty early on, and to me, it doesn't feel like the whole last hour for me pivots on whether or not you believe that there's any mystery involved, right? Because it's supposed to be this wondrous kind of, whatever, beyond the infinity moment, where he's breathing liquid fetal fluids, and he's like dropping 2 million feet. Like, I'm sure they give a real number, like 20,000 feet.
Yeah, it was like 2.5 miles.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
And he makes dad jokes by text.
He does. But like, the whole thing is like, but what if there really were aliens? We know they're aliens. You don't have to pretend they're not aliens.
Well, they're alien. Yeah, you see with the first thing, because the submarine gets buzzed by one of the little critters.
That's right.
And like, what is this thing that's maneuvering? And there's no way it's like any submarine we or the Russians have.
Right.
And so they're chasing it, or it starts poking at them and messes up their electronics just enough for them to run into the seawall.
That's right.
Oops.
We can talk a little bit more about this cast. We have Mary Elizabeth Monstrantonio.
Antonio.
Monsanto.
Can we call her Maid Marian? Because that's what she did next. She was in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Is that Stay Tuned? I haven't seen that in like 40 years.
Oh
good.
God, that's such a good movie.
great.
Okay.
I don't care
I'm
what
fucking
anyone
Brian
says.
Adams,
movie
that
rules.
soundtrack. Come on.
And Sean Connery
Come
is
on.
King Richard.
Yes.
Yeah, for a few minutes. Yeah.
Damn it, that's so good. Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman is
Oh,
in it,
shit.
and isn't it Alan Rickman?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Christian Slater's in it. Yeah.
Yeah, we should, this is definitely a stay tuned.
Brian Blessed.
Oh shit.
Who was he in?
I think he was Robin's dad.
Yeah, Lord Loxley.
Yeah.
He's the old guy. Yeah. I'm just looking at the cast. Looks good. I mean, again, I saw that. Well, I mean, when we legally all had to love Kevin Costner, like during the Postman.
Hey, I unabashedly still love Kevin Costner.
I mean, as an actor or director.
An actor. I mean, did you see Molly's Game that came out a couple years ago?
I will agree with you as an actor.
Yeah.
I think when he's behind the camera, he's not
Hit or
good.
miss, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Postman I think is pretty bad.
Yeah.
But like when someone can tell him no and just act, I think he's a very good actor.
I thought, didn't he do Open Range, like written directly by
that was really good.
Because I thought her Open Range was really good.
That's really good. Yeah.
There's a sequel to Field of Dreams. Oh, it's a short. Okay, it doesn't count.
Yeah. So, this one has. So we've got Mary Elizabeth
Antonio.
That poor woman. She must have ever mispronounced her name her entire life. Ed Harris, Michael Biehn. Who else in Abyss is famous? Because this was generally a good cast.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, at the time that was really it.
Oh, Chris Elliott.
Chris Elliott on the submarine at the end. Looking way out of his depth, which is fine.
And the admiral commanding the U.S. Navy that's watching the site looks a lot like Liam Neeson. It's not Liam Neeson, but he looks so much like Liam Neeson.
There you go. So not Liam Neeson is in this as well. But yeah, meanwhile, the whole plot kicks off because there's a storm. They can't go down, or they are stuck down below, which makes it an alien-esque chamber drama for a bit. And the whole thing is, why are there Marine guys here or SEAL team guys here? What do they want? And then literally someone opens the door and there's just a nuclear weapon, which is subtle, really subtle. So the idea is that there's missiles here. That's when we find out that there are actually missiles. And the point is that they're going to drop another missile down there to blow the whole thing up to prevent the other missiles from missiling.
You probably
the
really
other
want
missiles from missiling?
Yeah,
well,
from going missing.
Yeah, at one point they say they let them know there are Soviet submarines coming, and capturing a wrecked submarine from the other side would have been like the greatest intelligence coup of all time.
Be careful though. We're not a Tom Clancy book. This is because that's literally Broken Arrow. We are very specifically a Jim Cameron movie, so there has to be sci-fi nonsense.
And the sci-fi nonsense comes up because there's a scene where the hurricane comes, the crane holding the oil rig falls into the ocean.
Dude, first of all, they get a final destination death, and they survive it. But like a million things go wrong, and then they're like, "Oh, good, we're safe." Oh no! And then they keep going. That was funny as shit.
The crane nearly drags them into the trench.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I will give them credit for this. Like, there has to be something bad that happens like every 20, 30 minutes.
That's true.
And it's believable.
Yes.
Like, he's not just pulling shit out of his ass.
And when they're trying to fix the damage, that's when Dr. Brigman, I'm not going to murder that poor woman's name again, first sees the aliens.
Right.
Well, actually, they see the aliens the first time aboard the sunken American sub.
And they refer to them as the NTIs, the non-terrestrial intelligence.
Because legally at this point you could not say E.T.
Exactly. So they're the NTIs.
And
they
there's
use
this-
it the whole time.
And there's this one like insane conspiracy theory guy in the crew who
I don't think. Wait, are you talking about
the guy who's called
Hippie.
Hippie.
Hippie? Yes.
No.
Who happens to see everything like he is Shaggy from Scooby Doo. He's sort of like Zoinks! Oh my God, they've got a nuke.
And he's got a rat that he kind of carries around with him.
I mean, I'm telling you, it's Shaggy. And by the way,
That rat is smoking weed.
this is the most. This scene always gives me the jeebies. One of the things that the Marine or SEAL team brings down is this liquid oxygen stuff. It's supposed to be like the stuff you're breathing in when you're in utero, but it is this viscous. It's an extra from an episode of Gak or something. It's this weird viscous pink material, and he takes the fucking rat, puts it in a fryer basket, and drowns the motherfucker. And you see the rat gasping for air for about 90 seconds. It is something. I don't know what it is, but it is something.
I read the almighty Wikipedia that Jim Cameron.
Jesus showed up on set.
Jim Cameron got the idea for The Abyss in high school, watching a presentation on
Yes.
liquid breathing.
That's
a
right.
thing.
That's a real
Funny.
thing.
Dude, I'm not arguing with you.
This
It's
is
just animal torture porn, which is funny. But B, funny enough, I saw this movie the first time in like a 7th grade science class. Our teacher cracked us out as though this was science, which, fine, it's well researched. But the only thing I remember from it is when the weird water, like, oogle is looking at Ed Harris. I'm like, so I clearly learned the science she wanted me to learn at the time.
Yeah, the water tentacle. We'll get to that. That is
Japanese.
Yeah. So just so you know about the rat, what they used for the liquid oxygen, if you will, was the actual formula that they had been researching at Duke University. They did it on 5 separate rats, and all of them were actually able to breathe under the water. And then afterwards, they took them to a vet just to ensure there was no problems, and there wasn't. And it was this big thing, and Ed Harris had even considered trying it, but they decided not to because it had not been tried on human subjects.
That is A, something, and is B, one of the master splinter.
Yeah, right? Maybe.
Yeah, the 5 rats they did this on, they all eventually broke out of the vet and grew to human size, became ninjas.
It's true.
Hey, Brian, what are we going to do tonight?
Exactly.
The same thing we do every night, Pinky.
So.
Try to make the Abyss a financial success.
But again, it wasn't just
Didn't work.
water that they then just like put pink food coloring in it. They actually like researched and went to Duke and figured out what to make. And they actually made the real stuff.
Actually, you know what exactly
Is that not
what
the creepiest shit you've ever heard?
It is, and I will say, it does. You know what it does remind me of? The thing from your favorite movie, the mood slime from Ghostbusters 2, right? Because it even has little bubbles in it. This might be the same year, actually. 90...
Close to it.
Yeah.
89, yeah.
And then that was 91, maybe? 92? Something like that.
Something like that.
But yeah, so that's what it reminds me of. The stuff that they spray each other down with and then make the Statue of Liberty come to life with.
You give me your love. Keep on lifting it. So happy. Little toaster dance.
We did an episode on that like 300 episodes ago, literally.
It's the greatest. I told you it's better than the original.
My buddy Zach, and it's behind the paywall now, but I'll tell you this. His summary at the end said, everyone should see that movie because I come from a family of immigrants, and when the Statue of Liberty came on screen, I cheered, and I'm like,
That's true.
I'm not going to argue with that. How do you come back from that review of Ghostbusters 2?
You don't. And they used a Nintendo controller to control it and
Oh,
stuff.
dude.
Oh man, it was so good.
The one the rich kids had, the big,
Yes,
the big
one with the
fucker.
joystick on it.
Keep on lifting.
Oh my god. So,
Higher
anyways.
and higher. Okay.
Higher.
So I guess eventually we should talk about this. They're stuck at the bottom of the ocean. The rig falls. They're now officially trapped. I have to figure out what to do. Man is going crazy from sea madness or whatever they call it in this, and has a giant missile.
It's
a giant bomb.
high pressure nervous syndrome.
I'm sure that's a real thing. I mean, it's Jim Cameron. He looks this stuff
Yeah.
up. It doesn't
I mean, Armageddon had space dementia, so
Yeah.
this must be true.
All right.
People can get paranoia here on land with absolutely no need for anything to poke the bear. So
we call
I'm
it-
pretty sure you can get it like underwater and in space.
It's,
Just saying.
under the sea. Okay. So,
Aw.
well, what's the next movement of this? What triggers this next movement?
Well,
So, go ahead.
Dr. Brigman encounters and briefly touches a bioluminescent alien critter, and when
With
she
a
goes
face.
and tells everybody, the only one who agrees with her is Hippie, and she's like, "Can you stop supporting me?"
That's right.
And meanwhile, there was a guy who had like a panic attack because he encountered the aliens before, and he's in a coma. That's gonna be Chekhov's comatose sailor. And then the water tentacle shows up. And the water tentacle, we're talking Terminator 2 level special effects. 40 years
Not
later, wow,
quite.
I feel old. It looks beautiful.
Yeah. It looks amazing. And because the water tentacle mimics their facial expressions, they had to do 3D scanning of their faces, and it's the same technology they use now for 3D printing. So I'm not saying that James Cameron is the whole reason why I can print miniatures at my house, but thanks.
No, I mean, this is something that...
Photoshop was invented for this movie.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
I mean, the thing that Jim Cameron, I say, will do better than almost any other director is storyboarding. Because you can tell, to do this many effects, real, practical, and CGI, you have to know exactly the movements of your movie. Which is why I believe you when you say, somehow the 3-hour cut flows better than the 2-hour and 15-minute cut. Because the second you take away one of those frames from a storyboard, there's a gap in the story. And I felt like this version felt very choppy to me. I liked it, but you could tell me that it was meant to be longer because this felt more like a chop job to me. A lot of character motivation doesn't make sense. I'm shocked to hear it took him no longer to go crazy because that did feel very sudden to me.
I mean, right off the bat, his hand is shaking, and you're like, damn, already?
Got the GT shakes. He's only been down there an hour.
Yeah.
So I mean, what do you want to go to now? The submarine chase? Because
they have really one good line where I think Dr. Brigman has gotten her revenge on Coffee, the SEAL commander, by saying, "Raise your hand, you think that was a Russian water tentacle."
That's right. They accidentally kill the water tentacle by they close the door. It turns to liquid and falls flat, which again must have taken 1,000 shots because it looks great.
And because Coffee, I'll give him some credit. The tentacle was inspecting the nuclear weapon, and he started getting a little squirrely about that, which is kind of logical. But he's just progressively more and more of an asshole throughout, so that's less defendable.
That's right.
And and he's now that they've been spying on him with the TV, and he figured out how to spy on them with the TV, so it turns into who's spying on who and who's going to screw who first.
That's right. So now he's trying to get away with the warhead because now he feels that there's a threat on the ocean floor as well as the Russians, and he's going to go try to blow these bitches up. And so Ed Harris and Lindsay get another submarine. They chase him, correct?
Yeah, it's like demolition derby.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so and that's kind of where we are. The ship has, the space station, the water station is now not only broken, but kind of leaking. They have the crew trapped on one side, and the only way they can get there is Ed Harris is going to have to do this one dive to get to a hatch, but the hatch is locked. So the only way they now can get there is to swim all the way to where the submarines are, and it's him and who's the other dude?
Well,
Bud, right?
Bud. Mm-hmm. Bud is Ed Harris.
Ed Harris and Kyle Reese throw down with each other, and and then suddenly the dude who's like a Vietnam vet shows up and punches Coffee out, and apparently they inserted a white frame right when the fist hits Coffee in the head because you show that hurt.
Thank you, man. But yeah, so I was trying to find his name. Is that Catfish?
Catfish.
Catfish, the big guy. And Catfish also looks like he's out of Bloodsport or out of Roadhouse. He's just this big burly dude with a beard who I guess is a marine biologist. I don't know. None of these people are given any characteristics other than he's the big dude. He goes with Ed Harris down and then shows up the Deus Ex Machina. But Coffee eventually gets away with the nuclear weapon, which is when we enter a high-speed submarine chase because Jim Cameron's going to Jim Cameron. That man loves him some submarines. I believe he's still the Guinness record holder for the deepest someone has been underwater.
I think so, yeah.
They went to the Marianas Trench with that submersible.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That man wears that necklace, the Jewel of the Sea, to bed every night, just with a pile of money. By the way, if you haven't looked him up, which I'm sure all of us have, you should see he has pictures on his character page. But one of them is him and I think his wife at the time lying on fur blankets against an 80s wall. I'm gonna pull it up for Jeremy here.
Well, whoever his wife was at the time, they were going through a horrible divorce because they said that that's part of the reason why Bud and Lindsay's relationship / divorce is supposed to be so volatilely pushed in the movie is because James wanted to express what he was dealing with.
Yeah. Women suck. It's very.
Trust me, I know them. I fucking met them.
There is a lot of that in this movie.
Yeah.
Watching it now, I was like, damn. And everything is just piled on Liz. Basically, she is the symbol of womanhood, and everyone just shits on her so
especially
much.
since there's another woman, One Night Stand or whatever they call her name.
Yeah.
She's basically one of the guys.
Yeah, but that's it very clearly. Monster Ton. Maserati is the woman out, the woman who doesn't belong. Very clearly, she's not one of the guys.
I definitely identify with her. I even want a cowboy hat like her. Just saying.
She comes down in her prison jumpsuit.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, so eventually, there's a submarine fight, which is really something. You're expecting a kaiju to jump out, I guess.
Yeah. And of course,
friggin' Das Boot.
Yeah, and of course, the bad guy ends up dying in the submarine, which is great, and nobody gives a shit about him. He implodes or whatever. But more importantly, what happens is leads to the most traumatic scene of the entire movie that everybody who was a kid that went to the movies and saw this remembers, and that is that Lindsay and Bud's submarine starts taking on water. And there's only one suit in there, and so they realize that one of them is going to have to drown. and essentially hopefully goes into hypothermia because it's so cold and
Yeah,
they're
because she's
so
also
deep.
getting hypothermic.
And hopefully if she's hypothermic, it'll keep her from completely drowning. They can get her back to the rig, or someone to the rig, and then that way they can revive them. And she, he is trying to do the chivalrous thing and say, oh, I love you, you're my wife, you should take the suit. And she's saying, no, realistically, you're the better swimmer. If we're going to get out, you're probably going to be the one to pull me, and so I'm going to drown. And so they kiss, and it's sad, and it's really traumatic, because, you see her, what it's going to be like if you knew you were about to drown.
She can sell the drowning panic.
That was scary. I felt
really well. I think she was a better actress than Ed Harris was in this movie.
And at first when I did some research on this stuff, I don't know what I thought as a kid how they filmed this. I just kind of imagined it was pretend or something, but they were actually down inside of a pool, inside of a container, and she was literally that scared and screaming and crying, and then she'd have to hold her breath until she'd give the signal to please give me a respirator, and then they'd have to give her a respirator. I mean, this was brutal what they were having them do. It was totally psycho.
And that's why Ed Harris eventually punched Jim Cameron right in the face.
I mean, it happens.
I don't know, maybe you might be the only one who's seen this. It reminded me of the scene in Poseidon Adventure, or the new Poseidon remake, where Kurt Russell drowns, and you're just and he's and bubbles are coming out, and you're just gasping, and I'm just you gotta stop this scene. Because it happens again when Ed Harris starts to drown in the baby fluid.
Yes. Which I thought, again, I guess as a kid, I thought, oh, he either I'll tell you what I really thought. I really thought he could breathe in the water. I thought that was a real thing, and that James Cameron had invented it, and that he did that. But then when I realized it's not real, I thought, oh, it must just be a double pane glass.
Sure.
And they filled it up. No, they actually filled Ed's fucking total thing up with that. And then he would eventually give him the signal that he couldn't deal anymore, and they would open the front of the mask and give him a respirator. And that's how they filmed it.
Ed Harris, we nearly lost two great actors on this set.
I mean,
there's so many dedications at the front of
How
this.
scary and creepy is that? And
Jim Cameron was
every
I'm going
way.
to drown you a little bit.
Yeah, that's insane. So Ed Harris drags her through the water. It's not a dummy. He's actually dragging the real actress through the water like this, because I watched a whole documentary on it today and it was really upsetting. And they get up there, and he throws her into the hatch, and they're trying to do CPR on her, and the whole gang is there. And I remember as a kid that being really burned into my fucking mind, of him beating on her chest as hard as he could, and he's slapping her in the face back and forth, screaming, wake up, you never get up on anything in your life. Apparently, they did that scene 11 times, and each time he was really doing that. And for the last time they filmed it, one of the other actors heard James Cameron, or one of the camera guys go, we ran out of film. And they didn't stop the shoot. So Ed's smacking her, and one of the guys there says, stop. They ran out of film anyways. One of the actors says this. And God. She sits up and goes, we are not animals. And she starts screaming and crying, gets up and leaves the set. And they filed, and I only know this because they filed a complaint with SAG, that's why they lost money on the shoot that day, because she walked off set.
That's good.
Which she was in her right to.
Also, there's nudity for her for no reason.
They claim they needed to have skin contact for
though? A bra. You can put a paddle here and here. The magic, it's still magic. But they're just tear open her shirt for no reason.
To be fair, if she had a bra and underwire, they would have taken that off. Because of the metal.
Not for this movie.
I mean, if everything else, if they drown real fucking rats, Nick, they're gonna take off a fucking metal bra. But she don't need a bra anyways.
That's fair.
Hey,
we didn't need a
rat almost drowned. You're showing some titty.
Yeah, if you're half
girls
dead,
need a
anyone
bra.
who's getting off on that is insane.
Yeah, you barely see it though.
Yeah.
Little monster intelligence.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And at one point, they're all trying to tell Ed Harris to give up, and then the last round
No. They tell him to give up, and then he goes nuts on her. He starts beating the shit out of this girl. He's very comfortable slapping his wife.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And then they zap her titties 3 more times and she comes back to
She
life.
comes back to life.
Color returns.
And then you have all these great scenes of you are her looking up at Ed as he's talking, crying to you, and that's because she'd already walked off the set by then. So it's just a camera in the hole in the ground looking up at Ed.
It is shocking they let him get away with this. Like, this really could have been his John Landis moment. Or, who's the
Stanley
guy?
Kubrick and
It was Landis?
The Shining.
No, John Landis, where a bunch of people just died, and then now he can't make movies anymore.
Is that the one of the kids in the helicopter?
Right.
Yep.
I mean, the only other thing he's ever gotten is unlisted second director style. What's that?
I didn't know. Who's John Landis? What is Kids Down Here?
Twilight Zone, the movie.
Okay, so John Landis directed Blues Brothers, among other things. He was a comedic director in the 80s,
Okay.
big guy. He directs a segment for the Twilight Zone, and he has a bunch of kids outside of legal hours. You could have kids, too many were on set at the same time, and then the helicopter crashes and kills 4 of them, or something like that.
Oh my God, how horrible.
Yeah, and it killed Jennifer Jason Leigh's either dad or grandfather.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and that's why you can't direct anymore. But
Sam.
but that was the thing. Like, you break some of the it's literally what you're describing. Landis just had bad luck. If Jim Cameron had the bad luck, there's nothing after this. Because you kill Ed Harris, man. The one time that hatch doesn't open and he drowns, you're done.
Yeah, because I would rob Stanley Kubrick because I thought he drove Shelley Duvall insane.
He did, but he got away with it.
Yeah.
But
Thanks to those crazy kids and that puppy.
So after Lindsay is resuscitated with the CPR and whatnot, the one SEAL that is left is Monk, and he's the one who helps Bud use the experimental diving suit with the liquid breathing.
because they tried during the submarine demolition derby,
Yes.
they try and grab the cable with the bomb attached to it, and they lost it.
Yes.
So there is now a live nuclear warhead at the bottom of the trench with our mysterious alien maybe friends.
Correct. And Monk is going to guide Ed on how to successfully disarm this warhead. Because, if you can run an oil rig, you can disarm a warhead.
You can cut a wire, sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well,
Agreed.
the way nukes are designed is, at one little thing could damage it and not detonate it because you don't want these things detonating by accident.
Yeah.
And you've got the guy who actually knows how to do it. And so I think Dr. Brigman was wanting to send someone else, but Ed Harris like, no.
So of course Bud decides to, he's jumping down the thing. He's only able to, because of the liquid oxygen, he can only talk or communicate via keypad on his suit.
He's texting.
And he's just texting.
He's just live tweeting.
And with just a little oxygen left in the system, Bud explains that he knew it was just a one-way trip, and he's telling Lindsay that he loves her, and he's down there just waiting for death and shit.
And then, 2001 or something, he ends up on the alien spaceship and is fine.
It's
Yeah,
true.
the
The NTIs show up.
It's like a gray alien crossed with a stingray.
Yeah.
And they do the creation of Adam thing where it takes his hand and it takes him onto their ship, which looks like something out of Tron.
Now, here is where the movie diverges. So, in the version that we all saw, it was they feel sad for him. They see the messages to his wife. They are benevolent creatures at the bottom of the ocean. They help the whole crew get out alive. But in the version you saw, Jeremy, share with us.
So the funny thing was, I was thinking about how it could have been done. So I figured, and I'm taking the guess here, is, all the crew thinks he's dead. Then the alien comes and takes his hand. And then I imagine them cutting to the alien ship rising everything up.
Well, you missed one scene where they show him in what looks like a gray warehouse looking through a wall. Because at one point he takes off his mask, again, like 2001 through the infinity. Like, all of a sudden he's in a very gray, blank room.
They create a pocket of atmosphere for him.
Okay, yeah.
Is that in the version?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But it's not all the stuff he was shown.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
So, and that's a shame because, it's the whole moral center of the movie.
Correct.
The aliens saying, hey, you guys need to cut this shit out. You're going to blow each other up. And the only way we can get you to stop blowing each other up is if we fucking drowned all of you.
That's right. I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
So it cuts to, if I'm correct, a newsreel. We are now watching a newsreel along with Ed Harris of what's going on the surface, which is mile-high foot waves that are coming towards land.
Yeah, the aliens have been watching TV. They know about
Obviously.
the impending conflict between
The historical documents. Yes.
between the U.S. and Russia. And their solution to stop this is to create like 1,000-foot tsunamis that can wipe everyone out.
Do you own this?
I do.
I need to see this director's cut.
No, I mean, it sounds ridiculous when I'm describing it.
It would now the
You know that movie that came out with the asteroid and the big waves? It's just like that.
Deep
Armageddon.
Impact.
No, Deep Impact.
Yeah, it's just like, it's literally Deep Impact. The whole, like, whatever minutes of Deep Impact. And then he's discussing, and he's like, please don't do this to us. You know, we're really good people. And the aliens are showing him pictures of the atomic bomb testing going off in their waters and stuff like this. It's very, like, I don't have to say the word preachy, because that's not the right word. It's a montage of shit we have fucked up, right? And so the aliens are like, look at all this shit you don't do right, and this is why we gotta drown you. And he's like, but please, you know, we're good people, and I'm asking for every man. And then the aliens see his message to his wife, and they're like, you know what? You right. And they stop the wave, which, P.S., how does that work? And then it just recedes. And
So it ends like a Power Rangers episode? No, I mean, I do want to see it, and I don't want to say it sounds sarcastic. It doesn't sound Jim Cameron-y when you describe it. I want to see it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that I came away with this from most. Like, when you think of James Cameron, you think mostly of big action movies, you know, epic. Yeah, sure, they might be sci-fi in some instances, but
Sure.
at the end, they're big entertainment. This is hard sci-fi.
Yeah.
This is aliens chastising humans over their, you know, war and stuff like that.
Sure.
So that's why it seems kind of hard when describing it, because, you know, normally you think of, you know, Terminators and aliens and stuff.
Well, but even like all of his movies do have a message. Like
Yeah.
Terminator is, you know, fear of technology. Aliens specifically is very anti-capitalist.
Yeah, but those are hiding behind, we're fucking shit up.
Well, right. And so, like, that's why to me, you described that they cut 30 minutes of a message movie out of this.
Well, but that's because they had already met the message for. It's already man against self.
Yeah.
Man against nature, which is the hurricane.
Man against the Marine Corps.
Man against nature. Man against technology. Man against what the fuck ever. And so you're just like, okay.
Yeah, this is like the closest we'll have to James Cameron's Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah, very much so. And I will say, the one thing that they leave in which makes no sense without that part is when they're like, the hurricane ended for no reason.
Yeah.
Because...
Yes, and they say that in the final dealing when he's talking to the aliens, they admit that they're the ones who caused it.
Yeah, like I don't know if this was in yours or not, but in this one, in the extended, they explicitly say, hey, these aliens can control water.
It is, I think, mentioned, but the bigger thing is when it's really just the deck of the ship's like, hey, that hurricane sure left in a hurry.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I guess the magic school bus saved the day. Like, I don't know what to feel at that moment.
They bring the oil rig up from the bottom of the sea, and their remark is, we didn't decompress, we should all be dead.
Among other things, right. Because also the thing is trapped at the bottom. There's no way to get back. The submarines are damaged, which is why Ed Harris has to bring his unconscious wife back. And there's no way to recover them because the giant crane that would be doing it has smashed into them. So without Deus Ex Alien, there's no way for them to get to the top. Among other things, like you said, they magically decompress. Ed Harris breathes like seminal fluid or whatever for 3 hours and lives. And somehow they can tell the oxygen's out of it, which is cool. And then he sends a whole bunch of expensive tweets, and his dad yells at him for going over the planned budget for the night. We're pretty much at the end here. Yeah. Any last minute touches, Jim?
No, I mean, yeah, like I said, this is James Cameron at his brainiest. Like, there are some incredibly suspenseful scenes in it. Like, I'm not a water person, and
So this is your nightmare.
yeah, some of these scenes are just fucking frightening. Like, even without knowing that the cast and crew were put through absolute hell in order to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if this was, you know, went swimmingly, pardon the pun, it's still horrifying to watch what the actual characters are going through. But yeah, I mean, this is like James Cameron had a huge hit with Aliens, so he had enough clout to say, "I'm gonna go fucking weird."
Yeah.
In a way that he hasn't been able to since. The sad thing about this is this being his box office flop. I watched the extended edition on DVD. There's no Blu-ray of this. So I think that's my one complaint about this is, when you're watching a non-anamorphic DVD with some FX work that clearly needs some remastering, I love this movie, but it's probably not the best presentation that you can watch it in.
Sure.
So I'm sure, there's been a 4K remaster done, but once Disney bought Fox, they were like, we don't want to pay to put this out.
Yeah, and it's also a time when rights are much more complicated, so who knows when they'll ever get the rights to it fully to release. I think it was a Paramount release and a Fox movie or something like that.
Yeah, so definitely see it on the extended. You're only going to be able to see it on DVD probably, but hopefully once this comes out on 4K, I'm sure it's going to look absolutely glorious, and even I will like it even more.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. I'll be first in line. I have my money ready to buy the 4K version if they were ever to come out with this. This is hands down, I think, the best thing James Cameron ever made. I think I'm even more in awe of the film now that I know how complicated it was to make and the undertaking that it was. And I just always kind of assumed just the actors that I'm seeing are the ones underwater. I saw some background photos of 40 and 50 people in dive suits under the water, because the folks that are the lighting people are under the water, the sound people are under the water. There were 2 safety dive people for every single actor under the water. I mean, the fact that this was made in truly the most practical effects way that it can be done, short of actually drowning people and stranding them in the bottom of the damn ocean, this is 100% on point. And I think it's really amazing. I mean, I'm sad that apparently he's a crazy person to work with.
But it gets results.
But you see what he was trying to emulate was a sense of constant fear and terror and smallness and crampedness, and he did that by really doing it. And obviously those actors are to be commended for sticking it out. And I mean, that's true method acting right there. That's really celebrating your craft. These are people who, by the end of the film, Ed Harris was a master divesman, because this was so complicated to do. And I think it's really cool. I think it holds up really well. And even as a kid, I understood the relationship aspect of it. Now I think back, I'm like, what would I as a kid think is neat about this movie? I mean, it's not really an action film. It's more like a love story with some aliens at the end. But yet I remember thinking this was amazing. And as an adult, I still think it's amazing. So kudos to him. Oh, and I hate Avatar, by the way, but please continue.
Oh.
I saw this movie a couple times, and I was probably about 10 or 11, and I thought it was great then, and it's still great. Even the theatrical release is great. I mean, it's a little long, so the 3-hour one is probably maybe an overkill, but I think I'm gonna go out and buy a copy. This is worth having. Go see it, and also check out Christine Morgan.
You guys dating or?
No, I'm just
No, Matthew's looking for love. Come on,
Matthew, shoot your shot.
Come on. By the way, if you have any single ladies listening to the
planning on tweeting
cast
this
tonight,
episode to her when it came out. Can we please cut that?
Daniel, you can cut everything we say about James Cameron, but do not cut that part.
Oh my god. You cannot, sir. It'd be a 20-minute episode.
oh my god.
I will say, what's weird to me are these orders of events of these movies. I like this movie. The effects hold up. It doesn't surprise me that people nearly murdered him on this. It seems like it'd be a very stressful shoot. But if you told, but the fact that he directed this and Aliens very close to each other bothers me. Because it just feels so much like the same kind of movie. It's funny that he gets to go back to it now in Avatar the way that Ridley Scott is doing more like Prometheus-esque movies. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this movie. I will rewatch it. To me, I enjoyed it but it's not my favorite Jim Cameron because if I watch them all, I think he does a lot of the stuff better in other movies. But you're right. This is the. I wish this movie was had more quote unquote fun, because all of his other movies are sillier. Like he does True Lies in 2 years, or 3 years, or
Well, he does T2,
and then True Lies.
Yeah.
And like both of those have humor and levity. This movie is very dark.
Mm-hmm.
It's very bleak, and to me it's funny because it was preceded by Aliens, which is more balls to the wall craziness, right? Like the Marines do very little, and at one point there's almost a gunfight, but his gun doesn't have bullets, and so you just like I almost want more action in this.
Well, that's a cool reveal.
It is a cool reveal, and then there's just the guy flicking the bullets out of the
that's
clip.
so good.
That's great. But yeah, I'm picking at it because everyone else was so fucking nice to it. But I do enjoy this movie. I'll watch it again. I have no problems with this.
Yeah, I gotta watch the extended.
If I can find it,
Yeah.
it's on Paramount Plus right now, and it's touched up. But of course, it's only the theatrical length. But again, at this point, since Jim Cameron is fighting with Disney, I'm just not going to hold my breath at any time soon, right? Because I mean, if Paramount's showing this, they must have Viacom rights to it at this point. But who
Well,
knows?
there's a really great documentary about the making of this film.
Okay, plug it.
Let's see. Let me look it up real quick.
Because I mean, this might also only be for Jeremy, but there's like got to be a Heart of Darkness-esque documentary about this.
I'm sure. I mean, the version I have is 2-disc, so I'm sure there's like yeah.
Because I mean, just Blackwall Confessionals, like I nearly killed the man. Like just because again, like I know Jim Cameron was. He's a micromanager type. Like I've learned enough about him to know that much.
Nope.
So
He was underwater with all them too, to the point he's had to spend hours in a decompression chamber.
it's insane.
Yeah.
So I
That
mean,
is
there's
insane.
Yeah, I mean, he himself almost drowned in that he was underwater and he ran out of oxygen, and he had to essentially shred off his like 40-pound suit to be able to go up because the safety diver that was supposed to be monitoring him fell asleep, I think, because they were filming in the middle of the night. And then halfway up the rope, another person saw him coming out, tried to come over and help him with a respirator. The respirator was faulty, so it was just spewing water into his mouth. So James Cameron's fighting the guy to get the respirator in his mouth. The guy thinks he's panicking and he's holding on to him tighter. So James Cameron had to punch him in the face to get free of him to come up out of the water. Needless to say, they were both fired the next day. So I found the thing. It's called Making the Abyss, Under Pressure, the Making of the Abyss. And it's 59 minutes. And it is it's insightful and upsetting. I highly recommend you watch it.
You just said so many things so fast.
Did I?
That was awesome.
Thank you.
I had something and now it's long gone. That's fine. Well, thanks for listening, guys.
Let's do some more stuff. Let's talk about more things. This was
well,
fun.
1989 was apparently a lot of underwater sci-fi. Like Leviathan, Deep Star 6, Lords of the Deep.
I don't know Deep Star 6. Have you seen that one?
I think so. I don't think it was that good.
Well, I mean, I'm just curious. It's so weird how these things come in waves, but... if you guys are interested, there's a podcast series I'll plug just briefly, because a lot of the stuff I know about Jim Cameron I got from it, called Blockbuster. Season 1 was about George Lucas making Star Wars, and Season 2 was about Jim Cameron, and that's where we get a lot of these stories about Ed Harris really punching him out, the actors drowning. I didn't do as much clear research as you did. But
Well, I wanted to be an all-star. If I get invited to prestigious podcasts such as this, I want the people of Australia to know that I thoroughly researched and came prepared.
And Ghana and Nigeria.
I was going to say, we're back on the charts in Ghana, so there you go.
Nice.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the guys,
Come on, Ghana.
one of the actor who played the general in Baby: The Secret of the Lost Legend is like one of the most powerful film executives in Nigeria.
Oh, God.
So maybe we should send this to him.
You do that. I will pretend I've heard of you, but that's it. That's it. Dear Nigerian prince. It's a scam in reverse. Oh, God. I was thinking that there's an episode of Flight of the Conchords where it turns out to be real, and they respond, and the guy shows up and gives them money. Anyway, we're out of time. Thanks for tuning in this week and every future week. Please rate and review us wherever you get us, because it's been a while since I've gotten reviews, and I'm sad. consider joining the Patreon, patreon.com/myopia, where we have extra episodes every month, and an extra mission briefing every other month, and that's the cheaper level, so you get freebie there. And then further, since Candace is here, of course, we're both in the comedy group Cineprov. Patreon.com/Cineprov. We do 2 movies a month and a short, and depending on how much pay you get there. Further, every other Friday we do something together. Sometimes it's trivia, sometimes we watch along, sometimes it's exclusive to our patrons, sometimes it's open. So go to the Facebook page and join it. That's all I got. Thanks guys for listening.
Bye!
Myopia Movies is produced by Nick Hoffman and Daniel Settis. It is hosted by Nick Hoffman and Daniel Settis. Mission Briefing is hosted by John Copsey. Podcasts are edited by Daniel Settis, and Patreon is edited by Nick Hoffman. Our engineer is Nick Hoffman. The theme song is Surf Shimmy by Kevin MacLeod from Incomptech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license.